My stepdaughter erased me at her wedding. She chose her biological father over the man who raised her. But one phone call changed everything. When I first saw myself placed in the second row, behind cousins she barely spoke to, I thought it was a simple oversight. People make mistakes, especially on stressful days like weddings. But then I saw him, Tom, her biological father, standing tall and proud at the front of the aisle. A man who hadn't been around for more than 15 years. A man whose contribution to Danielle's life could fit inside a thimble. I stood there frozen, holding the corsage I had bought for her mother, Claire, as Danielle walked toward Tom, slipped her hand through his arm, and smiled up at him like he'd been her hero all along. Claire whispered, "Don't make a scene, please." "I'm not," I murmured, but my voice cracked anyway. The music began, people stood, and I watched the girl I raised my daughter in every way but DNA walk down the aisle with a man who had shown up only twice in the last decade. Claire squeezed my hand, but I barely felt it. My mind was replaying the last 15 years in rapid flashes. Her school projects. I stayed up late completing with her, teaching her how to drive in an empty mall parking lot, holding her hand when she cried after her first breakup, celebrating her college acceptance, paying for almost everything she ever needed. And now I wasn't even acknowledged. During the ceremony, the officiant said, "Who gives this woman to be married today?" Tom answered proudly, "I do." I swallowed the bitterness that clawed at my throat. "No, you don't. You never did." The reception was worse. She thanked her dad publicly during the speeches. She thanked Tom for everything he's done and for being her rock growing up. I felt Claire shift uncomfortably beside me. Everyone at the table stared at me with confusion, like they were silently asking, "Why isn't she mentioning you?" Even I didn't know the answer. When the cake was cut, and I still hadn't been acknowledged, something inside me broke, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, a slow tear down the inside of my chest. I pushed my chair back. Claire leaned forward. "Where are you going?" "I just need some air." But she knew. She knew exactly what was happening. I walked out. No goodbye, no wave, no explanation. Just silence. I drove home in the same suit I had bought specifically for the wedding I had helped plan. The wedding I had paid nearly 70% of the expenses for. The wedding where I wasn't even a footnote. The next morning, my phone buzzed non-stop. Danielle calling. I let it ring out. Then Claire called. "Please answer her," she begged. For Claire's sake, and only for hers, I picked up the next time Danielle called. "Hey," she said softly, too softly, like she needed something. "What do you want, Danielle?" I asked. I think there was some confusion with the venue payment. They need the final amount today. You said you'd handle it, remember?" I laughed. It wasn't a real laugh. More like an exhausted exhale. "Ask your dad," I said. Silence. The thick kind that fills the room like fog. "What? My biological dad?" "You wanted him in the spotlight," I said calmly. "Spotlight comes with responsibility." "He can't pay that amount," she whispered. "Can't or won't." She didn't answer. I ended the call. For the first time in years, I felt my heart harden, not out of cruelty, but self-protection. I had spent so long being dependable that she forgot dependability wasn't her birthright. Claire stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Was that necessary? "If I'm not good enough to be recognized as her father," I said quietly, "I'm not good enough to finance her wedding." Claire didn't respond. Maybe because she agreed. Maybe because she didn't know what to say. Days passed. Then weeks. Then 2 months. Danielle didn't call. She didn't visit. The silence between us became a wall neither of us touched. But every now and then, Claire would mention something she'd heard. How Danielle and her new husband were struggling. How Tom hadn't returned any of her calls since the wedding. How reality was crushing the fantasy she had curated. I didn't gloat, but I felt the sting of irony. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table repairing a loose cabinet hinge, My phone vibrated. Danielle. I ignored it. Then it rang again. And again. Finally, Claire whispered from behind me, "Maybe just hear her out." I answered. Her voice was cracked, fragile. "Can we talk, please?" I took a deep breath. "What do you want to talk about?" "The wedding," she whispered. I messed up." Her voice trembled so much I could imagine her wiping tears. "Go on." "I thought choosing him would make everything feel complete, like the family I lost could magically reappear. I thought it would fix something inside me. But he left again. He always leaves." My heart ached hearing her cry. "I didn't erase you because I don't love you," she whispered. "I erased you because I wanted to believe he hadn't erased me all those years ago." Those words hit deeper than she knew. Before I could respond, she said, "There's something else. Something you don't know." My heartbeat paused. "What is it, Danielle?" She inhaled shakily. "It's about Tom, and about why he suddenly came back before the wedding. I didn't know until last night. And it's bad, really bad." Her voice broke into a sob. "Dad, please, can I come over?" And for the first time in months, she called me Dad. I felt the ground shift underneath everything I thought I knew. "Come home," I whispered. That's when she told me the phone call wasn't just her apology. It was the beginning of a truth I never expected. A truth that would change everything again. Danielle arrived 20 minutes later, makeup smudged, wedding ring loosely twisting on her finger. She looked smaller, somehow fragile in a way I hadn't seen since she was a child. Claire pulled her into a hug. Danielle clung to her like she was holding on for dear life. When they finally sat down, Danielle looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "Dad, you deserve to know the truth." I didn't interrupt. I didn't even breathe too loudly. I just waited. She swallowed hard. "Tom didn't come to the wedding for me. Not because he cared. He came because he needed something." My jaw tightened. "Money?" Danielle nodded slowly. "He told me he wanted to make things right, that he regretted everything. He said walking me down the aisle would be his chance to prove he had changed. I believed him. I wanted to believe him." She wiped her tears with her sleeve. "But the night before the wedding, he asked for money. A lot of it. He said he was in trouble, that people were after him. He said he'd disappear again if I didn't help." Claire covered her mouth, stunned. Danielle continued. "He said if I wanted him to stay in my life, to really be my dad, I needed to show I cared. He said letting him walk me down the aisle would prove my loyalty." Rage simmered behind my ribs. A calculated manipulation. A man who hadn't earned a single moment of her life demanding loyalty as payment. Danielle's voice broke again. "I didn't even tell my husband. I was too embarrassed." "What happened after the wedding?" I asked quietly. "He left with the rest of the money I had and vanished. Blocked my number. Blocked my messages. I haven't heard from him since. And the venue called me the next day asking for the remaining payment." She looked at me with shattered guilt. "And that's when I called you. And you said to ask him. And that's when I finally realized what I'd done to you." Her voice cracked. "I didn't just erase you at my wedding. I erased the only real father I've ever had." Claire's eyes were full of tears. I leaned back, trying to steady the storm inside me. "Danielle," I said, "why didn't you tell me any of this sooner?" "Because I was ashamed," she said. "Because I didn't want you to see how easily I threw you away for someone who never deserved me. I wanted so badly to believe he cared that I ignored everything you've ever done for me." She looked down at her hands, trembling. "I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Silence wrapped around us. Heavy, real, necessary. Finally, I spoke. "Do you know when I felt the most hurt?" She shook her head. "It wasn't when you chose him to walk you down the aisle. It wasn't even when you ignored me in the speeches. It was when you called me the next day only because you needed money. That's when I realized I wasn't your father in your eyes. I was your safety net." Danielle's tears fell harder. "But," I continued softly, "he didn't just betray you. He betrayed both of us. and you've been punished enough for a mistake you made from pain, not malice." She looked up suddenly, hope flickering in her eyes. "Does that mean we're okay?" I didn't answer right away. I stood, walked around the table, and gently placed my hand on her shoulder. "We're not okay," I said. "Not yet, but we're going to be." She sobbed into my chest, gripping my shirt like she was afraid I would disappear too. After several minutes, she whispered, "Dad, can I tell you something else?" I braced myself. "What is it?" "I called you that day for the wedding payment, yes, but the real phone call that changed everything wasn't that one." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She lifted her head. "Tom called me right after the wedding reception ended. That same night." My stomach tightened. "What did he say?" She hesitated, then whispered, "He told me, your real dad isn't the one who walked you down the aisle. It's the one who walked with you your whole life." And then he hung up. I froze. Danielle continued softly, "I didn't understand it then. I thought he was just being emotional or dramatic. But now I know. He knew he was leaving. He knew he couldn't be the father I wanted. He said that because he finally understood who my real dad was." Her eyes met mine. "It's you." Claire's hand slipped into mine. And for the first time since the wedding, something inside me finally eased. Not fully healed, but beginning to. Danielle asked quietly, "Can we rebuild? Slowly? I don't want anything from you except another chance." I exhaled. "Then another chance is exactly what you'll get." She reached for my hand the way she used to when she was small. "Thank you, Dad." And this time, the word didn't hurt. It felt right. Earned. Real. That phone call changed everything. Not because of what it took away, but because of what it finally gave back. A father, a daughter, a chance to begin again.